Okay. Hey everyone, good evening and welcome to another edition of Society of Nepali Engineers in Victoria webinar. Last time we did was in June. The month of July, our executive committee came together, new ExCom came together. We were doing a bit of planning, and then here we are in the month of August with another exciting series of webinar. This month, as you can see on your screen, hopefully, it's all talking about a joint in your screen. Fawad, Rashil, just to say, wave your hand. I'll let them introduce themselves in a while, but just quick housekeeping. This is a webinar. We will have introduction section after this, and after that we'll have about 40 to 45 of moderated section, and I'll be moderating that section. And then in that, I'll be asking them series of questions, followed by the responses. You can post your questions in the chat function. I'll be looking up that chat function as well. This webinar we are doing live in Facebook as well, but in order to ask any question, we would suggest you come into the Zoom link. So any further ado, I think I'll pass it on to Fawad. Fawad, just quick intro for yourself, who you are, where do you come from? Just anything professional you want to share.
Yep, thank you, Diraj. Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to join this society and, of course, speak about my experiences to date. My full name is Fawad Mohammadi. I came to Australia back in 2004. I've been living here pretty much for the last 20 years. And over the years, I studied civil engineering, just like every good son needs to do for his dad and parents, And after that, I did 4 years of university at Swinburne University. From there, I started as a graduate engineer and I worked with Diraj at Northeast Link project. And prior to that, I was an undergraduate engineer. I worked with various companies. My first ever job was at Downer Group, where we did some survey work, and then came to OSPAT, VicRoad, Northeast Link, and here I am at Arup. My experiences range from construction engineering to and of course now being in the design side of engineering. All three sides has its own twists and turns, but ultimately it gives me a good breadth of knowledge just to see how each sort of component of engineering and organization work, and how they deliver a major project. And over the last 5 to 6 years, my career has been in that major project sense. So level crossing projects to big infrastructure projects such as Northeast Link Tunnel, and now at Arup, mainly focusing on the major roads projects, and of course some level crossings. And the last one that we did was a duplication of railway line. So that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, thanks for that. We'll touch on in detail with all your experiences that's on the screen. Yep. But just for clarity for our audiences, so you started as an intern or an undergrad, like a student role in Downer and in OSPAT. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right. So so that was my kickoff from university.
Yeah, cool. Okay, thanks for that. Next, I'll hand over to Rashil. Rashil, if you want to give a quick intro yourself, who you are, what are you doing, what's your journey so far?
Yep, sure. So good evening, everyone. And thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Rashil Pradhan, and I'm currently working as the coordinator infrastructure development at the Kolakotwe Shire Council. I moved to Australia from Nepal in 2014 to pursue my studies, completing my advanced diploma that led to bachelor's in civil engineering, and I graduated back in 2019. During my final semester at university, I secured an undergraduate position at the city of Maribyrnong, where I gained experience in traffic, drainage, design, asset protection, and road maintenance aspect of civil engineering. Since then, I've worked in worked in various roles across local government organizations, as well as a global consulting firm. And today I'm excited to share my journey, including the key steps and challenges that I faced along the way. So thank you.
Thanks, Rashil. That was really nice. Okay, with that intro, we'll move to our moderated section. This is by mean of having conversation. I'll be asking a series of questions, but as I mentioned earlier, feel free to post your questions in the chat as well. And then later we will have that opportunity to ask questions, and you can turn your mic on after that as well. But for the timing, you're more than welcome to turn your video cameras off. Just like make sure you're not eating anything. We don't want to see you eating, but yeah, feel free to turn your camera on as well. I think I'll get started with the first question, and then just both to our guests, like keeping your your student life in mind while you're like second or third year undergrad student. So Fawad, this to start with you, like what was your first thing in your mind while you're in uni? Like what was the goal? Like did you look for straight away look for job while you're uni, or how did you come across your first job while you were in uni?
Yep, no, definitely. So when I first started uni, I was working, part-time jobs here and there to support myself, during studies. And the ultimate goal from having to start university, the key objective was to secure some sort of work placement, and that would enable us to be able to graduate. There was a module as part of our degree that we required at least 12 weeks of work placement in order to be able to graduate successfully. So that was always on the back of my mind, but understanding that, first and second year, it's often quite difficult to secure a role in the industry. There are some people who secured a role, but that's, through connections, or, their father knew someone, or their mother knew someone. But in terms of us, I didn't really have anyone. But the one good thing about Swinburne University, and one key decision that I made to go to that university, because all my friends from high school either went to Monash or Melbourne, but Swinburne offers an industry-based learning program at the time that I was at university. Probably it's changed now, but what that offered was Swinburne University, they had a lot of industry partners, both in the construction sector, in council, and of course in the design sector. And what they did was eligible students, and obviously you had to work very hard to be able to meet that eligibility criteria, but you had to have a minimum GPA of at least, I think it was from memory, 3 or 3.2. And once you met that criteria, you had a portal, and that portal had all these job opportunities available. Some were paid, some were unpaid, and some were full-time, where I had to take time off university. And one of those positions that I applied for was Downer Group, where we were based in the southeast and is quite close to where I live. I was successful for that position, where it included a 12-month fixed contract that was also paid as well. And what that role entailed was a lot of working in the utility sector, both design and delivery. So that was a 1-year full-time paid internship, working in the southeast and predominantly servicing all of the utilities, mainly power lines. And that really got myself foot in the door, and that exposure. And of course, a little bit of, I would say, in when you're going for your driving test, you've got your learner's logbook, and that certainly gave a good boost to my
start of your career.
Yeah, that's right. So so that was one of the opportunities that we had at Swinburne, and that was really got me into the sector. And of course, prior to that, to get into the sector, I also did a Engineers Without Borders Summit, where we were taken to India, in Mumbai and Pune, for 2 weeks, and we did a lot of humanitarian engineering work that really made my CV pop out, and ultimately landed that successful position.
So far, just a quick question. So I'm thinking while I'm uni as well. So you did casual jobs, like non-engineering jobs as well, to support yourself while uni. Did you show that in your first CV to Downer? Did you show that?
Yep. Yeah, I definitely did. And that certainly the feedback that I got from the hiring managers at Downer was that it shows that I do have a little bit of work experience. It shows that,
Yeah.
you know, I have a little bit of customer service skills because predominantly I worked in the hospitality sector,
Yeah.
and that had a lot of face-to-face interaction. That had a lot of conflict management. That also had a lot of examples that I could draw upon. So
Yeah.
in the interview, they were looking for situations, they were looking for the tasks you did, and the actions that you took, and that I think really helped with my job application.
Yeah, I think a lot of our listeners over here, and you both have seen the the distribution of audiences as well. They're mostly in similar situation, like
Yeah.
either starting in uni or doing some casual job, trying to land the first job here in Australia. Yeah, okay, Fawad, I do have a few follow-up questions on what you just mentioned, but I'll pass on to Rashil. Rashil, same question. Thinking of you in your second, third year in uni, like, what did you do? How did you land your first internship that you had?
So I think my experience was pretty similar to Fawad's as well. Going into second, third year of uni, I wanted to get a head start on starting to find an internship and job, because I didn't really want to leave it to the very last stage, because
Yeah,
it would then cause a rush. So talking about my particular university, we had like I graduated from Victoria University, and we had like ongoing agreements with private, local, as well as state government agencies to provide internship
yeah,
for the students. So my university had a similar arrangement with Maribyrnong City Council, and Maribyrnong Council offered sort of two undergraduate positions for 6 months, rotating the undergrads between transport and civil design teams after 3 months. So
yeah,
it was really it was a really good sort of learning curve, because you got to experience not only transport but then civil design, and there was a team drainage team within the civil design team as well. So the experience was pretty invaluable. So these roles were pretty popular within university, and especially among final year undergrads, because they offered valuable experience, and on top of that, it was a paid position as well. So um, I think I think I should consider myself lucky. I applied for the role,
yeah.
went
Well,
through the
you did the
interview
hard work as well,
process.
not just luck. I'm pretty sure you did your hard work as well.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And went through the interview process, and successfully secured the undergrad position. So
Okay.
yeah.
I think what I'm hearing from both of you is that you both capitalized something that was offered by uni, and then like there was something offered, but I'm pretty sure all the unis these days have some kind of relationship outside the university with any sectors, any civil engineering or any electrical engineering or any telecom sector. And then if you could find that pathway, then I think that would be beneficial. I think that's what I'm hearing. Okay, so just again, I'll come back to Fawad. So Fawad, you did mention showing that first experience in your CV, and I asked this question on behalf of people who didn't go university here in Australia, but have done some kind of degree overseas and then come to Australia. Um, Finding the first job, did you come across any such cohort in Downer? Like, did you work with any overseas migrant engineers? Like, how did you like did you find any of that?
Yeah, definitely. Downer, especially the team that I was in, it was quite diverse. We had a lot of senior engineers from, let's say, Iran,
Yeah,
who had similar migration pathways where they came in, they did their university in Iran, and when they came to Australia, they had to do some sort of master's or some sort of postgrad course to be able to recognize their degrees from overseas. But they also had firm experiences that they could draw upon and to fulfill those role requirements. So, and there were also other engineers from Sri Lanka and, of course, India, where similar situations where they were established engineers and they migrated to Australia to have that pathway. And a lot of them, when they came and joined Downer, they started from the very bottom. Usually they had some sort of internship role, and they worked their way up to a civil engineer, senior civil engineer, and some of them were project managers, depending on the role specific requirements. But yeah, most of them had similar, I would say similar challenges to what we face.
Yeah. So it's not unheard of that, someone who didn't go to uni here or who has only overseas experience, education or work experience. So you still come across in your daily workplace situation as well. Yeah, that's correct.
Yep.
So I think that what I was trying to get to the point to our listeners is that it's not impossible. It's people like Fawad and Rashil. I'm pretty sure that you guys are working with those diverse, workforce as well. So that's good to know. So I'll ask next to Rashil. Rashil, just keeping, and we both share the same background. We both from Nepalese background. So and there are others in here. What did you think you do? What do you think you do a little bit different while you're in uni that help you land a job? And I won't go back to your point of saying lucky. I'm pretty sure you had to put your CV and you had to send the email, you had to find the right people. But what do you consider that you did something different that landed you that first job?
So I think specifically talking about internship, I had only applied for one internship. So I made sure to put my best effort into the application as well as the interview.
Yeah.
I tailored my resume, cover letter, and key selection criteria to, closely match what Maribyrnong Council was looking for in their intern. So it was not just like a, generic sort of a resume or a cover letter. I actually went through the key selection criteria and, the job description, and, I sort of tailored it to what they were expecting in their new intern. So I think that was the one thing that I did differently.
Yeah.
And also when it came to key selection criteria, so key selection criteria is generally relevant to local government jobs. So you need to apply for you need to submit your cover letter, resume, and as well as there's a document called key selection criteria where there's a list of different criteria that you need to demonstrate that you meet. So I think when it came to the key selection criteria, instead of just stating that I met the requirements, I think I provided specific examples to claim my, back up my claim as well. So, for instance, if the criteria asked for ability to read and understand engineering drawings, rather than just simply saying I could do it, I gave examples of where I had to read and
How do you
interpret.
sell yourself,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, exactly. Interpret engineering drawings and provided examples as well.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's the
And
only thing
did
that I did
you
differently.
so for that application, did you get any professional help to polish your CV? Like, who did anyone proofread your CV before you handed over to Maribyrnong?
So not professionally, but I would want to say that I had a really good working relationship with my with the chair of the course at my university. So he agreed to have a look at my CV
Yeah,
and key
yeah,
selection criteria and
yeah.
help me refine it.
So
So
you still had someone senior, someone more experienced to have a look at your CV, right? So
yeah, that's correct.
good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So for did you think about that first CV you had, which you put to down, did you get any professional help from uni or someone out of uni?
Yeah, definitely. So as part of that industry-based learning program, they had seminars and sessions for all students to brush up their CV and, of course, to make it into a professional setting. I was also fortunate enough that I had a very close relationship with one of my key lecturers, and he was able to then provide some feedback. And, of course, he also had a lot of industry experience. We were able to polish my CV to make it stand out and, of course, include the key pieces of information that would, make it a pop, that's the word that they would use.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's and I think yeah, message to the listeners is like, yeah, I think it's always a good idea that you have few more set of eyes to look over your CV and get some if required a professional help. If you're in uni, like I think uni would have those kind of student services to go through your CV as well. Yeah.
And one,
Um.
sorry, Raj, to
No, no,
interrupt.
no. Good.
One a piece that I would like to add and encourage students to do is speak to their lecturer, and that's certainly, they've got the knowledge, they've got the experience, and I'm sure they will, spare some time to be able to, walk through it, or at least give you some tips
Yeah.
to make it, to make the CV, worthy of,
Yeah.
putting in an application for.
Which is going to be my other question was like, did you put your lecturers or anyone from your faculty department as your reference in your first CV? Did you do
Yep.
that?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
And
So,
same for you. Did you do the same for your CV as well?
Yes, I did for the first role, just because I didn't have any professional referees
Yeah.
back then.
Okay. Okay. You're sorry for what you were going to say.
yeah, no, I was just saying, yep, that was, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's okay. And did you have what you worked in retail as well? Did you had anyone like non-engineer people in your first CV? Did you add that?
Yeah, definitely. So one of my managers that I used to work at Uniqlo, he was more than happy to put his hand down and as a referee. And in fact, he was an engineer as well, but he was
Okay.
mostly, I think, in the robotic side of engineering, where he had a lot of challenges finding a job. So he's stuck in retail, but he was all encouraging for us to get a job, because something that he didn't have, he wasn't able to do.
Okay, no, that's good. At least like you had someone in your first, so it's as a reference, right? So that's always a challenge, like who you put reference as, and it's always good to if you're in uni, someone in uni. If you're not in uni, if you're doing any other non-engineering jobs, then find someone who can vouch for you. I think that's key. We'll change a bit of gear, I think, now from the student and intern phase to a little bit of grad role. And Rachel, you have touched a bit on your experience in Mavnong as well. For I'll start with you. Your first grad role. How did you learn about that role? Like, where did you find it? Was it in an email or was it in a job board or website? How did you find that first advertisement, if you wish?
Yep, definitely. So I found it on Seek as well. So that was my primary source of information. And the other
Yep.
one that I would always have a look at is on Facebook. With the government authorities, or even with some of the major projects that's going on, they always advertise a grad program, or or through LinkedIn as well, they advertise whatever position that they had. But for
Yep.
me, it was it was at that time where a lot of graduate positions were being provided. But yeah, it was mostly through Seek, and of course, just keeping tabs on LinkedIn and Facebook for those engineering pages,
Yep.
just to get those positions available.
Yep. Okay. And Russell, same question to you. Like, how did you come across your first job ad?
Yep. So I think talking about this particular graduate role, I went into individual council's website and checked their careers page. That's how I came to learn about this position. In my experience, I felt as if some jobs were not posted in job search sites such as Seek
Yep.
or Indeed. So I would, go into individual council's website and check their career pages.
Okay. Yeah. So you still had that, not just relying on one source. You went to the individual website and then tried to check with them. Okay. No, I think that's a good strategy as well. So how much you both and Russell, while you have the mic, how much you capitalized your LinkedIn? Like how did you have like a established LinkedIn page when you started your grad role, or did that come afterwards in your career? How did you go about LinkedIn?
To be honest, I didn't really use LinkedIn at that time, during the time that I was about to graduate. I had a profile that I had set up, but I didn't really use it. It was only after I, actually secured a graduate role, then
Yeah.
I set it up and, highlighted my relevant experience and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't really utilize LinkedIn. However, I think it's a good platform to be utilizing, in terms of seeking a job. So
yeah. So okay, LinkedIn was not your primary tool of job search strategy.
no, not at that time. No.
For what was your experience different? How much you used LinkedIn while you're like a grad or looking for grad role?
Yeah, LinkedIn was great for me. My account, wasn't as flashy or, it was very basic, but it was something that I would use to be able to find jobs, and it's a great platform for, even recruiters who work independently through with the big engineering organization. They also had roles available. So yeah, it was a great tool to, keep up to date with what's the latest news in the job market.
Yeah. Okay. And for what, once you applied, your application got accepted in Northeast Link as a grad, and yeah. So how long it took you to, from application to starting the job? How long was that period?
Yeah, that period took a few months actually. So we had our initial interviews. I would say at the time, I think it was around August, and there was only a few rounds of interview. There was a phone interview followed by a group interview, and then
Yeah.
followed by a panel interview.
And
then
this happened while you're in fourth year in uni, like your last year in uni?
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So and whilst I was working on my internship, so it happened in parallel. And then after that, vaguely remember, I think it was around September or October. That's when we had our police checks done, and then afterwards we were given the role successfully. But then our official start date was in line with the graduate program that typically starts. It was around that February period. So I would say from August to February. What's that? That's about 5 to 6 months process.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're in your final year of uni, then it's now is the time, isn't it? Like August, we are month of August. Like you keep an eye out for grad roles in like is like now is usually when the grad roles come out for next year. Is that correct?
It depends on the company, but yeah, typically around this time, so that it paves the way for the interview process and, of course, the start date for
Yeah.
sometime next year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you went in Northeast Link. It was a bit of process for you to, from where you applied to get started, and there were a few rounds of interviews.
Yeah.
Okay. Rashid, from your experience, how long it took you, like I think your strategy was a bit different. You did your research first. How long it took you to land that job in Maribyrnong from application to starting a job in day one?
So Maribyrnong was actually my internship.
Okay.
I think it was advertised a couple of months ago, and then I had to put in the application and refine my application with the help of my chair, which took a couple of weeks' time. So I would say from the point in time where I started the application to when I started the job, I think it was about 2 months' time.
Yeah. Yeah. And as your first grad role, would you consider that the role in Banyul or in Pyrenees Shire? Which one you consider as your first grad role?
So once I completed my undergraduate position at Maribyrnong, I went on to work with Banyul City Council, but that was another undergraduate role as well, which was working in assets department. So I
Yeah.
would consider my first graduate role to be Pyrenees Shire Council.
Okay. So thinking about Pyrenees, and by that time, mind you, like for listeners, you had a lot of. I'm just looking at your experience in Maribyrnong. You had asset protection, civil design, transport. I think you got taste of a lot of stuff in Maribyrnong. I think that you had a really strong CV. How long did it take you to land a job in Pyrenees? Like, was it like a month application, or was it like few months wait? How did that go?
So I don't think it was a couple of months' time in my case, just because they were very keen to get somebody on deck.
Yeah, yeah,
So Pyrenees had, just I think secured funding in terms of road recovery as well as bridge design, bridge projects, and they were
yeah,
pretty keen on getting a graduate engineer so that they could assist the senior
yeah,
engineer who were working on the project.
yeah.
So I think by the time I applied for the application, I heard back from the HR department the very next day, which was pretty surprising and pretty quick.
Okay, yeah. I
And they
think
wanted to,
speak
yeah,
for your experience. You had all that, right? Yeah,
and they wanted to schedule an interview in 2 days' time. But
yeah,
because at the time I was living in Melbourne,
Yeah.
it was quite a bit of a drive for me to travel from Melbourne to Pyrenees. So I told them, look, I can come there, but give me at least a couple of days time.
Yeah.
And then there was the interview the following Monday, and um, yeah, after my interview, I think I was offered the role in the next 3 days time. So it was
Yeah.
fairly quick for me.
Okay. So I think what I'm trying to get with both this conversation is like there's some process that takes some time, and some process I think they're immediate, like based on the employer's need and employer's process. So if you're applying in different companies, don't get frustrated that don't hear back from them in 2 months' time. Keep going through the process and give your 100% in each stage. I think so again to Rashil. So Rashil, from Pyrenees, like you moved to private sector in Stantec, and then you worked in Stantec. So was that you looking for opportunities, or how did you land that job in Stantec? What did you use? Like, was it just LinkedIn, or was it through Seek, or how did you land that job?
So it's actually an interesting topic for me. I had been working at Pyrenees for about 3 years, and working in local government, it's my understanding and my belief you can only grow to a certain technical level. And I think my experience there, I think I had reached the top of my technical expertise, and I was wanting more. Just because I was a graduate and I was very fresh, I wanted to learn more. Um, I felt as if I lacked the technical
You needed that
expertise.
challenge, like that next push, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I felt as if I wanted more proficiency in terms of, like being able to review like road design plans, stormwater management plans, subdivision plan, and that sort of thing. And at that time, I actually received an actually, a recruiter reached out to me via LinkedIn, and he said if I was interested in a role that was,
Yeah.
closer to my home,
Yeah.
that would provide me that level of, technical knowledge as well. And I said, I was happy to review it, and I did an interview. Again, for me that was a quick process as well. Once I finished my interview, I think I got the job the next week itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what pushed me to
Okay.
transition from local government to private.
So you got headhunted, and then that was, I think, at that point you think I made it. I'm getting headhunted now.
No, I thought it's one of the perks of living in regional areas.
Okay, that's good. So that's other way of finding job. Like not you finding job, but job will find you. I think once you keep working where you're working, then you I think you reach to a level where you progress, and you keep doing what you're doing, and then yeah, people will find you as based on your skills. Okay. Just I think I do have a few more questions on grad role, but did from applying from a grad role, to your next stage in your career, and this is I'll come again to Fawad as well. So, well, applying from a Northeast Link position to Arab, what strategy did you have to change? Like, did you have to, talk to like other people for networking, or did you have to change your CV, or were you looking for like job in Seek? Like what was the strategy that you adopted
Yep.
for the next level jump?
Yep, definitely. So for me, going from Northeast Link to Arab, it was being in the client side. It was a huge jump to going into the private sector, but one of the needs of Arab at the time was another resource to manage the utilities for a major project. So for me, I had a connection that worked at Arab, and what they requested for me to do was to tailor my CV towards that role, including any specific, experiencing around that specific role that I had. And of course, that was then sent to their team leader and group leader. That was then reviewed, and then a role was made available online that I had to go and apply for. And then after that, the interview process, and going from the grad role, the interview process took months, whereas this within I would say 5 days, 5 business days, we went from interview to offer to acceptance and to handing in my resignation letter. So it was a much quicker process compared to what I was used to in the past.
Okay, so it was a different strategy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Sorry. I just had a message. I think in the background I had some noise. So if you could please mute your mic just for this moderator section. Thank you. Okay. Well, so that was and LinkedIn. Like, how much you use LinkedIn in that? Did you use much of that in this stage of your career?
Yeah, definitely. So it's something that similar to Facebook and maybe Instagram, it's something that I'm addicted to, where, I have to refresh it once, every couple of hours. And that's how we get insight, into new work. And as a consultant, you want to be able to, keep refreshing on that, because that's where all the news is on, announcement for new projects. And, as consultants, we always want to be able to bid for work and to be successful for a project. That would also keep you billable in the company as well, where you can at least charge to a project on your timesheet. Whereas being in a government sector, and the client said we didn't really have timesheets, but LinkedIn is something that I regularly use, and of course I send connections to people that I know in the industry, and of course people that I look up to, who may have similar experiences, or they're quite senior, and that's how I try and build that networking. And who knows, what faith could lead us. Yeah.
So again, now I think a bit of other change of gear, and both of you're working as successful professionals currently in your role. Now looking back to your grad application process, and your what strategies you applied, and looking at the current scenario in 2024, we are here. You must have seen grad roles, people applying for grad roles as well. And I'll start with Rashil. Rashil, in your workplace, what have you seen? What's the current strategy people are applying to? That was something different when you applied back your grad roles. Are people using AI, or are they using different kind of CVs, or are they approaching directly? Like, what have you seen going around in the job market right now?
I think you're right, Dheeraj. Ever since the introduction of ChatGPT, there's people are using it crazy. I think there are new graduates who use ChatGPT to sort of refine their resumes. You can just type in give me a new format of CV, and ChatGPT will do the rest for you. So I think that's being used, although I've not noticed that firsthand. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I couldn't think of any other items. One thing I would like to add is we had, Colac Shire Council recently advertised for a grad role, and there were many applicants who directly reached out to the employer, and they sort of wanted to introduce themselves, and wanted to know more about the job. I think that sort of shows dedication, and they were pretty, very interested in the job as well. So I think that's something new that I've noticed currently. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm asking about strategy, but I just saw a question pop up here directed to you, Rashil. So Amrit is asking that can you please share about transitioning from a local government to private industry? If you could touch, what was the difference in the working culture, and how did you do that? Yeah.
For sure. So firstly, when I transitioned from local government to private, and this is my experience. Everybody's experience might be different. Is different. While working for Pyrenees, I felt as if I was pretty limited by the amount of standards that I knew. Standards such as IDM or Austrian standards or Austroads and that sort of thing. But when I joined Standig, I found that it was the norm to sort of know the standards by heart. It was the norm, and on top of that, councils don't really do any of the designs related to sewer or water sort of network, which you would have to do in Stantec as well. So the transition period was it was a very steep learning curve for me. So
Yeah.
it took I don't know, I think about 6 whole months just to figure
Yeah.
out what standards are you supposed to be using and that sort of thing. So yeah, um, but having said that, I think I definitely enjoyed it, and I feel as if I learned and grew exponentially, after I transitioned to Stantec, while, comparing it with what I would have transitioned or, what would have I grown if I stayed at Pyrenees. So
It was something that you wanted, and then you looked for that and went ahead and looked for that in the private sector,
yep.
in this case, Stantec. Okay, that's a good response. Thanks, Rashil. I think next question I'll direct that to Fawad. Fawad, we have Nishan who's asking that he also completed his construction and engineering management, and with 2 years of overseas experience. He's asking if he should focus on grad roles or apply for experienced grad position. What would you recommend to Nishan?
For me, I had another graduate colleague who was in a similar position where, they had experiences from other, organizations, and of course, they applied for the graduate role to get their, in the industry, they say their foot in the door. So if that's something that you're willing to undertake, it's going to be a bit of a long process, but ultimately you can get some solid experience applying for graduate roles. But keep in mind that there are a lot of fresh university students who are competing for that same role. And it depends also for established roles. Again, the market is always changing, and of course, with the projects that we've seen in Victoria, there's always demand for engineers. So if there are any let's say site engineer or civil engineer position that that meets your meets the project descriptions that you're looking after, then definitely go for it. What's the worst that could happen is that they could say no. But again, so depending on what the role is and what the pool of applicants are, you might they might see your CV as one that best fits the position. So I would advise, go for it. Just apply for a graduate roles that's available, and of course any other senior roles or any other established roles that's available, because the market's always growing. There's always need for resources, and especially engineers with experience. So, and that your experience is something that could stand out, and of course make you, the more favorable candidate.
Okay, so go for grad role as well, but don't lowball yourself and try to sell yourself as an experienced grad as well.
Yeah,
okay,
definitely.
Hopefully that answers your question. I have another one. Sorry, that was Nishan. Sorry, that's not Chiti's. I was looking at Chiti's question right now. Rashil, I'll come back to you. So Chiti's is asking that he's in his final year of uni. Is that right? Yeah. And looking for grad roles. Yeah, he's in final year of civil engineering. He's applied for 50 to 100 applications. He has a decent profile in LinkedIn. He's been, I think, cold calling companies as well. What would you suggest, Rashil, that he can do a little bit different, or should he keep remaining this path, or how can he change his strategy?
Firstly, I completely understand how challenging it can be as an international student to secure a job. Like, the competition is very tough, and many students are competing for the same role. And then there's the added pressure of your student visa close to expiring by the time you graduate as well. So yeah, I completely understand that. That's how international students feel. I would say I've got a couple of tips for you. Um, and that my first tip would be to focus on the quality of your application over quantity. Tailor your resume, cover letter, and key selection criteria if you're applying for local government jobs, specifically to each and every job description. So make it unique. You don't just use the same application for multiple jobs. Second of all, carefully review the job description and don't hesitate to contact the employer if you've got any questions. This can also be a great way to show your dedication and interest in the role. Third of all, I'm not too sure whether you've been looking at areas outside Melbourne. Maybe you could consider expanding your search, to include regional areas like Geelong, Bendigo, Ballarat, and so on. There is a shortage of engineering professionals in these regions, which might make it easier to secure a job compared to metro areas. And finally, don't be discouraged by rejections. It's normal to face them.
Yep.
But yeah, if you consistently put in the effort, in preparing your application, it's only a matter of time before you land a
Yeah.
job. So
That's a good point, Rashil, that like you always should not limit yourself within the metropolitan Melbourne. And I think few of the experienced engineers in this call kickstarted their career in Australia from a regional workplace. So yeah, so for just and you don't have to answer if you don't have the right data, but looking at the projects that Arup is looking after, so are you also aware that there are jobs and projects outside metropolitan areas, in like outside Sydney or outside Melbourne? Are you aware of that?
Yeah, definitely. So, there are periods that something of personal experience as well. We had a period where we didn't have much billable work, and that's something where the company, looks for expands to regional areas or even interstate. And some of those projects that my name was put down for was in Cairns. There was a project there for a dam project, and even that's something that they put my name forward. The client reviewed it, but unfortunately, the cost of relocating me to Cairns was a lot more than hiring someone locally. And again, a similar situation where, one time from a personal experience, we were, low on work, and one of the wind farm projects down in Port Fairy, that's kicked off, and that's towards Warrnambool. That was another a bigger project where we had probably 12 to 18 months of involvement, and this was mostly construction engineering. And again, my name was put down for that role along with a few others from Arup, but unfortunately we were all unsuccessful because the contractor was able to then hire someone else for obviously cheaper. And when I say cheaper, I mean someone from locally or
There's no
someone.
financial commercial sense for them to source someone.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, because then they would have to pay for our relocation cost, accommodation, food, all of that. So, which was quite, expensive for them. But yeah, from a commercial sense, they were able to hire directly, and someone from, I would say Port Fairy, Warrnambool, maybe someone from Warrnambool or someone from Geelong, are able to, get to there easier than compared to us in Metro Melbourne.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good. That's good. I think Seek as well, it gives you an option to look for jobs based on the area. So you always don't have to stick to Metro Melbourne or Metro Sydney.
And Raj, can I just add another example?
Yeah,
And this was only last week, actually. A lot of our engineers at Arup, our names and our CVs were put down for another major infrastructure project in Adelaide. It's the T2D Torrance to Darlington project, massive tunneling project. I think it was around $10 billion in value. And unfortunately, Arup, we were unsuccessful in that bid. Our company lost to, I think it was Jacobs, who was the other consultancy company who won it. But again, it just shows that if you could look out, even interstate as well, there are some exciting projects that are happening, and who knows, they're always looking for resources depending on whether it's the private sector or the government sector. There's always, with these announcements, I think there will always be an opportunity for. And I noticed the winning contractor. On my LinkedIn,
I think John Holland, consortium.
On my LinkedIn, I think I saw some site engineer roles and some project engineer roles already,
that's a good point.
posted. So definitely, that's one, little personal thing I just shared.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, I think that's a good strategy as well. If you're on LinkedIn, if you see, some new job going out there and then contractors bid, getting awarded, then that's definitely that contractor would be looking for resources to hire, right? So that makes sense to go into the website, put your expression of interest. I think a lot of big projects and even councils, they ask for expression of interest and then keep your CV on the books so that when they need resources, they they already have someone there. Okay. Next question is from Dibya. Rashil, do you have any tips while you gave any interview for your job, or if you have sat in any interviews that you took, that do like say one do and one don't? If you could think, I'm pretty sure there's hundreds, but if you just have to say top one do and top one don't, well, what would that be?
So when you're in an interview, I think, make sure that you're positive and you've got a, smile on your face. Do your research about the company. Make sure you've got questions about the company as well, and some of the maybe, some of the projects that they're undertaking as well. So if you show them that you've, done a bit of homework, I think that's a good sort of indication that you're strongly interested in the role. So that I would consider would be the do's. The don'ts, maybe avoid talking about the salary in the interview process, because there's a different time, on when you can talk about the salary and negotiate. So yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Diraj, do you mind if I add a
Sure,
don't to
sure.
that list? One thing that was the feedback that that I received working in the private sector is that sorry, I had in my head. I've just blanked now. About the interview being scripted. So the interviewers can always tell, if you've got a script ready or answers that you've already practiced, they can tell that you've come in with all these answers already in your head. But try to make it as natural as possible, because it makes the interview flow a lot better. And you're definitely at the end of the interview, you feel like you've had a conversation, like a one-on-one catch up, rather than it being some sort of script where you're following it to the to the level 99, where I think and you have more chances of forgetting that or going off script easier. Whereas if you have that natural conversation, I think you'll just be you'll just stand out a lot more. So that's something, the feedback that was passed on to me, and that's something that definitely I've improved on over the years.
That's great. I think and everyone in this call who working, I think they would agree that the best interview is the one that you were relaxed and having kind of a natural conversation, right? So that's a good one. Again, highlighting back to your grad role CV, can you show your Australian degree project in your resume as a local experience? How do you sell yourself? And this question is both to you both. How do you show your uni, degree project, or that final year project as your in your CV? Would you guys recommend that? Rashil, I'll start with
if it's relevant to the job that you're applying for, I think it's beneficial to show that. For example, if you've done a let's say road design project as a part of your final year uni, and you're applying for a civil design role, I think it would be beneficial for you to print off a set of plans that you've done and present it to the present interviewer and say what your involvement was. You can say I did the horizontal as well as vertical design on this, and I've drafted it using AutoCAD. I designed it using CivilSite 3D or 12D, that sort of thing. So if it's relevant, I think it's a good idea to take it along with you.
Yeah. And Fawad?
Yeah, definitely. Just echoing Rashil's word, anything that you can make yourself stand out, make yourself appear, better than the other candidates, then I would definitely add any experiences or any of the, final year research projects. For me personally, I remember I did my research project on vibration on concrete structures, and I had more questions from the interview panel than I did from my students, when I did my final year presentation. So it's certainly something that I from personal experience, highly recommend it.
Okay, that's great. I think and I have a comment here, so I should have opened the floor a while ago, but this was such a good conversation that I just got into my zone. And just for our guests as well, we're just a minute shy of 8 o'clock. Would you mind, like, for 10 more minutes? Like, we have a lot of questions there. We might not cover all, but I think just going with the flow. Would you like 10 minutes more? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, that's all good for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think in that I would ask Yeah, and Pawan, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, if you, yeah, I'm happy for you to turn your mic on or show your face as well and ask a question to our guests. Like we can start with that. Any takers? No, if not, then yeah. Okay. If while you prepare a question in your head, I think I'll summarize a few team questions over here. There are few questions that have been asked that they have experience overseas and in this case in Nepal. Some they have 3 years experience, some they have 8 years experience, ranging from site engineer to project manager. And they are pursuing some degree here or not, but and I could sense this frustration because I was in similar situation as well. But we have talked about all the tips both from Fawad and Rashil. What would you suggest to a person who has applied for such roles, like constantly, repeatedly in a lot of companies, but have not been able to land a job? Rashil, I'll start with you. I think you've touched this a little bit earlier as well, but what would you suggest to people with more experience, like these kind of experiences?
So I think my advice would still remain the same. It might be that you are not tailoring your resume, cover letter, and key selection criteria. Again, if it's a local government job, then
Yeah,
you need to start tailoring them to individual jobs. The other one, like I said, was instead of just looking and focusing in Metro Melbourne, I think it's a good time for you to start looking at regional areas as well, just because there's so much. For example, there's a lot of land development happening in regional areas, but there's a shortage of civil design engineers and engineers in general. So I think it's good for you to expand your search area into regional areas as well. That might give you a bit of an exposure. You might end up getting a job in a regional area. You stay there for a couple of years, get experience, exposure, and then maybe move back to Melbourne. But yeah, those my advice would still remain the same for those applicants as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fawad, from your experience, how would you advise someone actively looking? I think they're doing everything they could in their power, but what would you suggest to keep on going?
Yeah, I think, but for me, would be patience as well. I know it's hard, and I know it's difficult, and I've been in those positions as well, where you get countless rejection emails. Unfortunately or unsuccessful, or we regret to inform you. All of those words sometimes give me nightmares as well. So I feel, but I think, yeah, as Rashil said, if that's something to develop your CV, tailor it to that role, expand on some key topics or key experiences that you have. And also, the one other thing that I would say is draw upon your connections as well on LinkedIn, whoever you have.
Yeah,
It doesn't hurt to reach out to them and say, is your company looking for interns, or even junior positions, or even something to get yourself in the door. And if you have those connections, feel free to reach out to them, and pass on your resumes. And I think that will be another pathway to be able to get in. The one
yeah,
thing I did as well when I was at university, in addition to applying through Seek, was reaching out to job seekers. One job seeker was Armstrong that I reached out to. They were able to secure one of my traffic engineer roles, and that's an opportunity there as well, where you can. There's all these different job seeker platforms available. So reach out to them as well. They might have a role. Their roles might not be permanent roles, but at least you can get some local experience that you can add onto your CV.
So
Yeah.
that's like an agency that would look at your skills and then try to match up with the like 3 month or 4 month of role.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right. That's right. Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Agency. Yep.
Okay. I think yeah. So other tips for or other suggestion for our listeners is like there's also that avenue that you might tap into that agency resources in on top of your LinkedIn and Seek strategy. I think I'll have one last question and then we'll move to closing remarks from our guests and our president. But I think this question has 2 parts. I'll toss the first part. Is it better to pursue a graduate coaching program or an agency-based internship to land a job? Rashil, from your experience, are you aware of any graduate coaching program or agency internship?
Yeah, I think I've seen a couple of recent grads undertaking those sort of coaching
Yeah.
avenues as well, but I've not firsthand experienced it, so I'm sorry, I would not be able to comment on that. But I
Yeah.
think it's important for you to keep looking for jobs, keep applying for roles, and if none of the avenues work, if you're still unable to secure those jobs, I think it's beneficial to explore that coaching avenue as well.
Yep. Okay. That's good. And from your experience, and this is the temporary works
Sorry.
visa. Well, I won't harass you with this question.
Yep. No, you're good.
So Rashil, again, so temporary working visa, does that come in your way while applying? Like, did you had to face that as any hurdle in your application, Rashil?
Yes. Yeah. So when I was in Melbourne, I tried to apply for a lot of jobs, and a lot of the employers would require a permanent residency visa.
Yeah.
And yeah, just because of that, I expanded my search to include regional areas as well, because
Yeah.
regional areas, there's generally a shortage of skilled workers, and they're generally more flexible,
Yeah.
comparing with Melbourne areas. So I have not, I've not directly been affected because I didn't, go through the path of applying
Yeah.
to the companies who strictly said, permanent residents only.
Yeah.
I took a step back and, started applying for roles in
You
regional way.
expanded your search and then so
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I think that's all from our questions and from our end. Just 8:07, conscious of time. Next, I'll give opportunity to both our guests, and Fawad, I'll start with you. Just your closing remark, quickly. Your if anything that I've missed, to ask you, or anything you want to sum up from today's session.
Yeah, no, I want to thank, Daraj giving this opportunity. It's great, to be able to speak to students. I was always in that position as well, and having that anxious feeling sometimes of not being able to secure a job. But it will happen. If you keep trying, keep persisting, keep on keeping on, and I think ultimately, it's something that will take time, but the end result would be there for you, regardless of what the role is, whether it's in Metro Melbourne or regional areas. The one thing I forgot to mention during the session was, if there are, if you are struggling to finding the jobs, then I would suggest one other suggestion I'd have is maybe looking for some unpaid internships as well. I know it's very difficult in not being paid for your time, but it's, I think, one of I would say maybe a last resort to be able to get yourself into the industry, and of course to have a little bit of local experience. I think that's another one pathway that potentially you can explore, but I know it's tough. Obviously, yeah, with the cost of living crisis, it's a bit hard, but then again, you just have to weigh up your options and have some sort of balancing act in place where if you want those roles, you just have to make a bit of sacrifices as well in order to achieve that. But again,
Yeah.
apart from that, I would just say, keep on trying, keep persisting, and of course, always keep an eye on LinkedIn or any other forum. The one website that I look at as well that just informs me of all the infrastructure projects, the infrastructurepipeline.gov.au, I think it is, but it also has a list of all
Yeah. Well, do
infrastructure
you
projects.
mind posting that in the chat function
Yeah,
afterwards?
yeah, definitely. And not only that has civil engineering jobs, but other sectors. So one sector that's growing as well is the energy sector. So there's a lot of projects that's being posted up: wind farms, solar farms, and these projects are always in the regional areas. For a big, massive paddocks. So I would suggest
Yeah.
maybe having a look at those, see who the contractor is, see who the client is, and possibly reaching out to them as well. They're not your everyday contractors, your John Hollands, your CPBs, or your Arabs or your GHDs. They're little lesser known consultants, but they do work in that sector where it provides employment for at least 12 to 18 months minimum, and I think that's another good pathway to get your foot in the door. So yeah, keep trying. I would say keep persisting, have faith, and have a bit of patience, and yeah, definitely you'll secure a role. So yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, it will happen eventually.
Cool. Thanks, Fawad. Yeah, really well summed up. Okay, Rashil, same question. If I've missed anything, do you want to add anything to what we have already discussed? Quick summary from.
No, I think Fahad pretty much summed it up really well. The journey from being a student to a professional engineer, it's got its own challenges, but at the end of the tunnel, there's light, and it is quite rewarding once you get a job and then you start progressing to your career. So don't get discouraged by rejections. Like I said earlier, it's only normal to face them, but if you consistently put in the effort into preparing the application, maybe redefining the search area, it's only a matter of time that you land an internship. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and yeah, I hope our experiences have been helpful.
Yeah, I think from both of you, what we wanted to demonstrate was they're like an individual like yourself who have done your hard work, gone through that university pathway, and looked for jobs, use strategy of CV, polished your CV with someone's help, looked for different avenues, and even when you're working in a certain company, you were trying to upskill yourself and trying to grow yourself, and then look outside that. So I think that's if anyone was not taking note, I think that was my key takeaway from this whole conversation. Cool. Thank you both. Thank you so much. I think I'll lastly ask our president, Haripande, to close this session, and I think he has some updates as well. Hariday, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Dheeraj. I think what a fantastic discussion. I think I loved it. That's really true to what all require, right? I know it's challenging for as a graduate or a student to get a first job, and you guys touched on all the aspects of those things. So, look, firstly, thank you to Fawad and Rashil for coming here and taking time to share your experience, right? We're really thankful to you for your time. Also to Tilakji for helping us here today. Fantastic, always. Thank you so much. Look, clearly, obviously, it is a very challenging for a student to get a job, which has been discussed before. So, and a couple of themes I picked up was, I think you have to start early. Don't leave up to the last year of your bachelor program to start navigating the industry and be more proactive. I think that's what I picked up as well. So I hope everyone got some learning, some insight, right? And some inspiration to continue to look for the job as well. So, all right, couple of things from me. So I've already posted with our next program will be social drinks. It's happening in the, I think, 29th of August. So yeah, please join that session. There will be more time for you to network with other people and ask questions, right? There will be senior engineers as well and other like-minded engineers as well. So thank you so much. Yeah, please join. I've sent there. So obviously the executive committee is working in behind to bring programs like this. And thank you for your support for joining program. There'll be more programs coming in, I think. So we will keep you updated. Please keep in touch with through Facebook, right, at the moment, and LinkedIn. We have got a LinkedIn profile as well. Please follow up there as well. We'll update that regularly. We are also building our website, so we're hoping to provide all the information there soon as well. So yeah, keep out for that as well. SNEVic.org.au, and that's about it. So we'll come up with more programs. Yeah, thank you for your support, and yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah.